Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom, I'm David Mencer, spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Office of the Prime Minister. It's Monday, July 28th, day 661 since the October 7th atrocities. Please put your questions in the chat directly to me in the private chat of this Zoom, together with your name and your outlet, and I will take them after a couple of very brief points to share with you. We open today with heavy hearts. The IDF has, very sadly, now lost 898 of our bravest since this war began. These are not just statistics, they are our sons, they are our daughters, they're our brothers and our friends. Each one is a world, each one is a hero, and each one a future stolen by terror. Sergeant Major in the reserves, Bezalel Yoshua Mosbacher, was age 32 and from Avni Eitan. He was seriously injured in battle and subsequently succumbed to his injuries. Captain Amir Saad was 22 years old and from the Druze village of Yunachjat. And Sergeant Inon Nouriel Vana was just 20 years old and from Kiryat Tivon. All of these three men fell in battle in southern Gaza. The Prime Minister said that together with the entire people of Israel, we mourn our heroic fighters who fell in battle in Gaza. The Prime Minister sent condolences to their dear families, and in the name of the entire nation to embrace them in their time, this horrific time of grief. He also said that we pray for the speedy recovery of those injured. The Prime Minister said that our brave fighters have sacrificed their lives in the battle to defeat the murderers of Hamas, and sacrificed and the sacred goal of releasing our hostages. We will not relent from these goals until victory is achieved. May their memories be a blessing forever. Next to the humanitarian situation in Gaza, allow me to share with you some facts as opposed to so much of the information which has turned out not to be true. Let's put an end to some of this fiction. There is, of course, no Israeli policy of starvation in Gaza. Prime Minister made that crystal clear again last night. That claim comes straight from Hamas's propaganda department, and unfortunately, too many have been parroting it. Here are the facts, the latest facts on these issues. Over 258 trucks entered Gaza in the last week alone. That's 258 trucks which have entered Gaza in the last week alone. 600 trucks have already been distributed by the UN and other international agencies, but of course hundreds more are waiting at the crossings ready to go. Now this aid includes food, water, medicine and medical equipment, and it's been facilitated by Israel and the Israel Defense Forces. So the question is, if aid is not reaching civilians, who is blocking it? Hamas, of course, which is why the Prime Minister spoke yesterday about new safe routes, but aid only works if it reaches civilians. So Israel expects the UN and international agencies to stop the blaming and start delivering. More consistency will equal more impact. Now, following the Cabinet's instructions, the IDF has launched a new humanitarian initiative. That's a daily pause in non-combat zones from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. In El Mawasi, in Deir al-Balah, and in Gaza City. Safe humanitarian corridors are in place. And also electricity has been restored to power a desalination plant serving 900,000 people. This is not theory, this is actual action. Now, our international partners are joining us just in the last day or so. The UAE and Jordan have parachuted 28 aid bundles into northern Gaza and southern Gaza, which have been coordinated by Israel. And weeks ago, Israel approved the UAE's plan to build a water pipeline from Egypt to Al Mawasi, aiming to serve 600,000 people with clean water, independent of Israeli infrastructure. Now, of course, you can contrast that with Hamas, who actually dug up water pipes to use the pipes as missiles to fire against Israel. and construction for this project is already underway. Meanwhile, the US-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is making a difference. 95 million meals have been delivered since May. And in the last day alone, just yesterday, 1 million meals were distributed. Of course, Israel backs this work, but the UN must stop obstructing it. And what does Hamas do? Of course, it loots the aid trucks, it attacks food distribution centers, and it endangers its own people. This is not just mismanagement, it's a war crime. Hamas isn't feeding Gaza, it's starving Gaza on purpose to feed its own narrative. And finally, let me share with you this picture behind me. Take a look. It's been on the BBC and on many other websites. It shows a starving child. Fortunately for the child, of course, it was false. It was a lie. It was the lie that built the famine story. This photo helped spread that lie. They said that Israel starved this child. His name is actually Osama al-Rakab. He has cystic fibrosis. He's actually been in Italy for almost 5 or 6 weeks now. Israel got him out of Gaza. Now, for 2 years now, the media has played into Hamas's hands. They've repeated every single lie, every distortion. It not only hurts Gazans, it also sabotages ceasefire talks, as we've seen, and of course it prolongs the agony of our 50 hostages who remain in Hamas's terror dungeons. I would add that for centuries, our people, the Jewish people, were smeared with the monstrous lie, the claim that Jews kill non-Jewish children. That hatred lit the pyres of Europe. Today, it comes back dressed up in headlines and hashtags that Israel deliberately kills children. Let me say this as clearly as I can. That is a lie. It's a lie as old as Jew hatred itself. We know it. You know it. We've seen it before. And to those that rush to believe and to publish these lies, we see you. That's the end of our briefing today. Please put your questions in the chat. Remember, please put your questions together with your name and your news outlet, and then we will get to some of your questions. First question here, Jean-Paul, if you could share with us what your news outlet is, we'll come back to you. Next question here is from Dana Carney from CNN. The question is, this is not the first time we're hearing Israel being accused of genocide over this war, but this is the first time the action is coming from an Israeli organization. Can you please address this? Thank you for that question, Dana. And you're referring to B'Tselem. Look, let me answer it in this way, because this claim of genocide, it has tremendous effect. Of course, it blasphemes Israel, but also it has a real effect on Jew hatred as well. Let me just share with you, in the last 5 or 6 days, just in the last 5 or 6 days, what these claims have resulted in. Okay? They've resulted in Jews being kicked off a Vueling flight in Valencia in Spain, Jews prevented from disembarking a ship in Greece, Jews slandered by James O'Brien on LBC in London, Jews attacked eating at a restaurant in London, Jews assaulted by a thug on a bus in Dublin, Jews detained at a festival in Belgium just for being Jews, Jews harassed at a French airport by staff members, Jews physically attacked by anti-Israelis on roads, Jewish restaurant being vandalized in Friedberg in Germany, Jews refused service at a restaurant in Vienna, a Syrian refugee who bit the ear of a Jewish man in Gaza saying, "I am Hamas." That is what happens when these sorts of lies, these libels against the Jewish people and against Israel are spread. Now, when it comes to this accusation of genocide, yes, of course, we have free speech here in Israel, but we strongly reject the accusation. It is baseless. There is no intent. key for the charge of genocide. There is no intent. It simply doesn't make sense for a country to send in 1.9 million tons of aid, most of that being food, if there is an intent of genocide. It's completely incongruous. It's an attempt to delegitimize Israel's right to self-defense against Hamas. Our Prime Minister has previously labelled the charges outrageous. And of course, our defence forces target terrorists and never civilians. We've taken extensive measures to minimise harm. Hamas, which deliberately embeds itself within civilian populations, is responsible for the suffering in Gaza. And that's why Israel will continue to facilitate humanitarian aid despite the ongoing threats. And I will just also point you to John Spencer, the world expert when it comes to urban warfare, who has said that no other country has done as much as Israel to get people out of harm's way and to take the war directly to the terrorists themselves. Okay, next question is from David Clement at the News Forum. The French have said they'll recognise a Palestinian state, but have the French communicated with Israel on who they think would act as the government of this recognised state? Thank you for that question, David. The Prime Minister has made Israel's views crystal clear when it comes to this subject. The Prime Minister tweeted, and I was in the room when the Prime Minister wrote this tweet. He said that this is a reward for terrorism. He said that there was a Palestinian state. It was called Gaza. Israel withdrew almost 20 years ago to give, for the objective of giving peace a chance, to give Gazans the right, the opportunity to run their own lives. Gaza was turned into a large operating base of terror with 400 miles of terror tunnels, not for its own people, but to carry out terrorism against this country. And the Prime Minister also made clear that any of these false, these erroneous support for a Palestinian state at this time would simply make October the 7th the Independence Day of the Palestinian people. And that is simply unconscionable. And I would simply say to you, David, that if you go on the street here in Israel, amongst Israel's 10 million population, there is wall-to-wall opposition to this idea, because a Palestinian state, which is simply a stopgap, another opportunity to destroy this state, is simply not an option. And I would point you again to the Prime Minister's tweet, which he made, I think, on Thursday evening. Okay, next question, please, is from Jean-Paul, is from Malta. And your question, okay, I guess it's from Maltese media. Just today, President Trump has said that he told Israel to change strategy. What is this new strategy he is referring to? Thank you very much for that question, Jean-Paul. Ambassador Witkoff made it very, very clear, and President Trump has also made it very, very clear as well. Hamas have refused a hostage release deal. They've refused the framework. Israel has agreed to it. We made extensive compromises to advance this peace deal. Hamas continues to impose unacceptable conditions that have blocked progress. And Special Envoy Witkoff made the point very, very clearly that clearly Hamas is not interested in a deal. And alternatives need to be sought to get our hostages home and restore peace to the area. The Prime Minister shared similar sentiments at the end of last week. But I would also point you to the Prime Minister's comments, which he made just yesterday when he visited down south just yesterday, which are available on Twitter, where he made clear what our objectives are in this war. They remain unchanged. They are to get all of our hostages home and to ensure that Hamas is destroyed and can no longer be a base, have any authority or have any ruling power over the future of Gaza. Okay, any more questions? No? Okay, I would remind you again to put any questions you have directly to me in the private chat, in this box, but we don't have any more questions. So thank you for joining us today. We'll have another briefing later in the week. In the meantime, you can contact us in the usual way for interview or for any comments, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.